Hello and welcome to the Block Solid podcast, where we talk about the evolution of the property market, the newest technologies that enhance or revolutionize the real estate world as we know it, and how we, the owners, the buyers, the renters, the investors, the technologists, the journalists, and the entrepreneurs can benefit from it all. I'm Yael Tamar, co-CEO and co-founder of Solid Block, a pioneer in real estate tokenization, and I'd like to welcome my good friend, Rachel Wolfson. Hi, Rachel.
Hey, Al, how's it going?
Amazing. So happy to have you on my podcast finally. Where are you hanging out right now?
Currently in California.
All right. Enjoying the sun?
Yeah. The sun was a lot more intense in Miami when we were together, but yeah, the sun here hasn't been too bad.
I haven't seen the sun in Miami. I was just kind of Airbnb-ing between the meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, the conference was great. So we were together at the Bitcoin 2021. And it was really kind of a menu of a lot of different events, a lot of different, opportunities to meet people in the industry. And I felt like everybody who we needed to meet actually made it there, kind of just because maybe people haven't seen each other in a year. But what have you seen in the conference that kind of piqued your interest in our industry?
Yeah. First of all, the conference was massive. And it could be because of what you just said. People haven't been to conferences in over a year. This was the biggest conference that I've ever been to in this space. So that was just incredible to see the turnout. I think it shows that, it's becoming mainstream. Bitcoin is becoming mainstream and it's attracting all this mainstream interest. And that was very apparent in Miami because it wasn't just the usual, innovators that we see. There were a lot more new people.
Yeah, a lot of people just came out to learn, right? Just, and they traveled from all over. Like I stayed in a hotel with a bunch of people that just kind of artists that flew in to learn more. So that was, speaking of why you were at the conference, you are a reporter with Cointelegraph, right? And on top of that, you have a few other things going on, right? So I wanted kind of you to tell the listeners what you do.
Yeah, definitely. So yes, I'm a reporter with Cointelegraph. I've been with Cointelegraph for about 2 years now, close to 2 years. On top of that, I'm an enterprise blockchain analyst part-time with Quantum Economics. So I have a lot of enterprise blockchain knowledge and I help out there as needed. And I just wrote an ebook on Bitcoin. It's called Down the Rabbit Hole. Yeah, Bitcoin for Beginners. And it's just a very basic, easy to understand ebook for those wanting to get started with Bitcoin.
That is so cool. I'm going to include the link to that. And I think Tim Draper wrote the foreword for that, right?
Yes, you are correct. Tim Draper is a friend of mine. And I asked him, I said, hey, would you be so kind as to write my foreword for the book? And immediately he said yes. And, he's all about Bitcoin. He's one of the reasons why I believe so much in Bitcoin, because I've spoken to him before about it and he's so passionate about it. And it just kind of like spreads to other people around him. So yeah, Tim is great. Really happy he wrote the foreword.
That's amazing. I really think that this book needs to get a lot more attention. Many people are asking, even us at Solid Block, what to do, how to do crypto, how to get into it. Some people are embarrassed to ask, and then they go online and there's all these outdated resources and so on. So I think that it's a good starting point for many people. So thank you for writing that.
Yeah, thanks, Yael, of course.
Yeah. So you speak at so many conferences too, and you're kind of being requested. And I would say probably one of the top 5 speakers, women speakers that I've seen in this industry. In fact, I think you were named as the top 5 women working to change the world of crypto by the next web, which is really cool. Can you talk a little bit about just women in our industry?
Yeah, definitely. So when I got into this space in 2017, there were a lot less women. You were there, I was there. But now I'm seeing an increase in women, which is awesome. I mean, it's very apparent, especially at Bitcoin 2021 in Miami, there were a lot more women. I mean, we were still the minority, but there were more of us. And I've always had great experience being a woman in the space. I've always been respected. As a journalist, I love writing about the space. I think that I bring this perspective where I can take, something technical and make it easy to understand, which is what, I think women are great at doing those things. They have this different perspective and they can add that to things that may be complicated and they can make it so much easier to understand. I think that there's a need for women in this space, and it doesn't just have to be engineering and developers. Obviously, it can be PR and marketing and communications. So, yeah, we're seeing an increase in those roles, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I definitely seen that in Miami, and it was really heartwarming for me to see, like, here's a new industry where we leveled the playing field and are gaining more and more power and strength. So that was really cool. So as a journalist, what do you feel that you are bringing into the industry? Are you educating people about Bitcoin? That we know you wrote the book. But let's say, are you passionate about reporting on this in the startup scene, on the development of cryptocurrencies? Do you have a specific niche you're interested in?
Yeah, definitely. So before joining Cointelegraph, I was with Forbes, and my focus there was enterprise blockchain. And so I really gained a lot of knowledge from the enterprise space, and I brought that knowledge with me to Cointelegraph. And so what I focus on a lot is enterprise, and I also focus on women. So if you look at my column, you'll see a lot of stories today. I actually just published an article on how enterprise Ethereum is maturing with the need for standards being developed now. So that was my latest post. And then after Bitcoin 2021, I wrote an article about the women at the conference, the women speakers there. So obviously, my column is very much filled with enterprise and women. I don't write so much about the market. I mean, I have Bitcoin. I'm a fan of Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin, but I don't write about the market. I know about it. Obviously, I wrote that ebook on it, but I'm not a news writer who writes about the crypto market. So I do these in-depth articles.
So, and I love that because I think the enterprise is really going to drive this, right? Like enterprises were driving the internet, after, let's say, small businesses got on the internet, but then really the enterprises with their solutions and security and all of that started driving the big business. And, we still live in the world of enterprises. So what can we do? So I do enjoy your articles. And I think that once more enterprises get educated on what can be done and how to jump on board, we are going to get closer to mainstream.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that a lot of, if I speak to a Bitcoin maximalist, and obviously they're very much against enterprises and institutions, but Yael, you make a good point. It's like we need this adoption in order to drive cryptocurrency, in order to drive Bitcoin, in order to drive ETH. I mean, we need that adoption, and we're seeing that. And I think it's wonderful.
So last year we couldn't go to any conferences and everything kind of moved online, which was great in the beginning. Oh, I can do this from the comfort of my home. And then you're like, oh, but where's the fun? Where are all the parties? Where's the action? But also the market changed a lot. Kind of, there's a lot of realization in the time of the pandemic, either kind of slowed down. And so what kind of trends have you seen emerged from that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember very clearly about a year ago at this time, Yael, Bitcoin, I think it reached like 12K and it was going up for the first time after a long time. And I was so excited. I posted about it on Instagram, oh, Bitcoin's at 12K. Let's celebrate. And a year later, I think now we're at like 35, 36,000 for Bitcoin. Yeah. And I mean, it's incredible. It's like, I get it. We're not at 60K anymore, which we were at, 63,000 or so for the all-time high back. I think it was March or April. And now we're at, in the 30s, but we're still in a bull market, from my opinion. I don't think we've ever been out of it. Even when Bitcoin dropped to like 28,000, this is still a bull market, in my opinion, because, back a year ago, we were at 12K. I mean, if we were at 12K today, I would be buying Bitcoin left and right. I can't imagine it ever getting that low again. So I'm hopeful. I really see Bitcoin going up this year. And it's like our friend Alex Mashinsky over at Celsius said, I wrote the article on it. He said, we're going to see probably 160K Bitcoin by the end of this year. We haven't seen the all-time highs yet for this year.
Wow. Crossing my fingers.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some stuff that happened in the news recently that kind of made me start explaining to my family what's happening. And, they're like, oh, see, crypto is being used to demand ransom attacks and stuff like that, right? So see, they're terrorists using it. And, we're always saying cash is used, the number one asset used by black market or whatever, right? But then you cannot deny the reality. It's much more difficult to move cash across the world, and crypto made it much easier. So I'm wondering what is going to happen. Are we going to get really savvy, or the government's going to get really savvy in regulating that aspect of crypto? Like, we're not, we don't love regulation in crypto, obviously, because we want the freedom. But on the other hand, we don't want to have all that illicit activity, right? So do you think there's a solution or a middle ground there?
As of now, I think it's being worked on. As of now, we don't have a solution right now. I think that progress has been made since the beginning. We are seeing regulations and the government discuss ways to ensure the safe use of cryptocurrencies. But I mean, it's even obviously, this, it's like the same thing with cash. Like, cash is used all the time for crimes and illicit activities. I think that will always be the case no matter what regulations come into play. I mean, the great thing about Bitcoin is that it is financial freedom. It's not tied to any government or entity. But at the same time, in order for it to go mainstream, we are now seeing regulations come about. And I mean, I think part of that are going to be, stricter rules when it comes to ensuring that crypto is not being used for illicit activity.
Yeah, I'm really curious about what's going to happen. And I am surprised I'm not seeing more startups in the space, working on these problems, right? So kind of reg tech that's still allowing freedom, right? Like Bitcoin and stuff like that, right? To allow the government to monitor things in a way that would be helpful, yet allowing people the freedom. Actually, I'm on that season of Startup running on Netflix right now. Are you watching
cool.
that?
No, wait, what is it? Sorry. What
Startup.
is it
There is a show called Startup.
Oh, Startup. That's the one that's in Miami, right?
Yeah, I am
watching.
Yeah, I started watching that right after Miami, and now I'm on the season where, not to spoil anything for anyone, but the government's coming to ask for kind of monitoring of the transactions and stuff like that. So stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know where that's going, but I love how TV a lot of times kind of foreshadows the technology. We've seen that with the Silicon Valley, in fact, and the whole Pied Piper. And I met someone who was actually behind the company after which Pied Piper was either modeled or something super similar to that, actually at a launch of their new features or tech. So it's really exciting because these things actually do happen, and the writers on the show are seem to be fairly educated. And it seems to be.
Startup is a good show, and they apparently know something about, crypto and the space there.
Yeah, they do. They're showing the dark side of it though. So I don't know. There are some lighter side and definitely advantages of, people all over the world. Let's talk about financial transactions only, right? So allowing people all over the world to get banked, to get payments, to get loans, all of that is now becoming possible, right? To kind of, again, leveling the playing field for everyone. There is a big question on whether corporations or enterprises should actually own that space and kind of manage the money which people are using, right? So having centralized currencies like DM by Facebook, for example, right? To give power. So you give power to the people, but you also give a lot of power to the enterprise, which already has a lot of these people's data. So, I mean, beyond the concern of the government, like, I don't know, do you have any concerns about connecting the two? Between connecting money, like currencies, which you give, obviously for people to use for their benefit, and then lots of data that these enterprises are collecting from their users, right? Might be some concerns of manipulation or, being able to use that data and having a lot of power over these people because they're also using your money.
Right. Yeah. I mean, data concerns have been with us for a while. So, I mean, it is concerning. Obviously, I don't know what will be done to ensure that, these concerns lessen. But yeah, I mean, obviously, knowing where your data goes and what happens with it is extremely important, right? Especially in this space. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, these big enterprises, Facebook, Google, Amazon, all of them jumped into financial services recently, right? There's almost each one of them has their own payment provider, a Google Pay, Apple Pay, and so on, right? And a lot of them are jumping into crypto. PayPal is jumping into crypto. I think most of the enterprises now are dabbling into that in some way, shape, or form. So we're kind of getting these new countries, we would say, I would even say, right? Providing services. Some even provide citizen services, I would say, right?
Right.
Identity and stuff like that.
Yeah. And identity is a huge part of this that, we're going to start seeing a lot more of for sure. But, you bring up a good point. All these big organizations like PayPal and Venmo and Facebook, they're all getting into this space. And so I think that it's important to realize, PayPal and Venmo, for instance, you can hold crypto now on those platforms. And on PayPal, you can buy and sell. I think you can do the same on Venmo as well. Bitcoin isn't going to go to $0 ever. I mean, this is something that is here to stay. And that's why these payment platforms are adopting it.
Right.
Like, that's why when people say, oh, well, isn't it risky to hold Bitcoin? And don't you think it's going to go to zero? It's like, the answer is no. I think it's going to just keep going up. It's going to go up 250K or more. And it's like, these platforms wouldn't be incorporating that into their solutions if they didn't believe that as well. Bitcoin will never go to zero. It just won't. It's impossible, I think.
Yeah. Well, I love how El Salvador recently adopted it as a legal tender. So that was also really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And then now maybe Mexico. I think in Mexico is thinking about it. I mean, it's just so wonderful because that's the real use case for Bitcoin if you're going to use it to transact in those countries that really need it. I mean, I live in America, so I hold onto my Bitcoin. I don't want to do anything with it. I don't even want to, sell, trade, whatever. It's like I have Bitcoin and I hold on to it. But like these countries where their currencies are just so shitty, for lack of a better word, Bitcoin's a great solution.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right on point there. So Rachel, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background. How did you get into writing about crypto?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I got into the space in 2017. At the time, I was working for a DevOps startup in San Francisco. And I was also a contributing writer to Huffington Post, where I wrote a lot about technology and women. And I remember a friend of mine told me about blockchain. This was in 2017. I had never heard of it. I didn't know what it was, and it was confusing and complicated. And she said, well, this company is doing something with blockchain. You should read their white paper just for fun. And I did. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And as a contributing writer to Huffington Post at the time, I decided to write an article about blockchain, just, see what happens, see if it piques people's interest. And it blew up. I mean, people were so interested in blockchain. I didn't start by writing about cryptocurrency. I just started writing about blockchain, the technology, and how enterprises are using it. And so from there, I kind of got addicted. I went down the rabbit hole and I started writing about it more and more to the point where I just, wanted to do that kind of full time. So I reached out to Forbes and I was able to become a contributing writer there, where I focus specifically on enterprise blockchain. And basically I got addicted and I haven't looked back ever since. Left my startup job and here I am as a journalist.
As a nomad, right? You're kind of in between 2 or 3 places, and you used to come down here in Tel Aviv and work out with me in the park.
I know. We were doing that about a year ago because of my Facebook memories. I've been seeing that. And, actually, Elle, I was thinking possibly of going to ETH Paris. And then if I go to Paris, obviously I would come to Tel Aviv.
When is that? Is that the next big conference?
I think it's going to be pretty big. It's in Paris, July 20th, I believe. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you go. I just secured a media pass for that. But obviously, if I'm in Europe, I always come to Tel Aviv to visit after that. Yay. So maybe I'll be back.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm going to try to get there if that's not on the blacklist for us. Travel is becoming tricky again. I thought we beat COVID. Apparently, it's still showing its ugly head, but we will persevere and get there, and we'll see each other again soon.
100%. Yeah. Whether it's in Tel Aviv or Miami or California. I mean, that's the best part. One of the best parts about, Hawaii. The thing about blockchain is it's decentralized and all the people in it are decentralized as well. So we're all very nomadic, and I have friends all around the world just because of this space. But obviously, Tel Aviv has a special place in my heart.
For sure. Well, Tel Aviv is waiting for you, Rachel.
Yay.
All right. Well, it's been great having you on. Is there anything else you want us to know about you or what you do or this field?
Yeah, thanks. So let's see here. I mean, like I said, my focus is women and enterprise. So I think if anybody has a great idea that's listening or watching this, if they have a great idea for a women-focused article or enterprise blockchain-related article, obviously you can reach out to me. My Twitter is at RachelWolf00. I'm very active on Twitter. That's probably the best way to reach out to me. And then check out my ebook. It's on Amazon. It's called Bitcoin Down the Rabbit Hole. It's a quick, easy read, really good for beginners. I think I'm going to discount the price a little bit just to kind of, help facilitate sales, but it's a great book. Right now it's $6.99 for your Kindle. It's an ebook and I recommend checking it out.
Of course. Can we buy it in Bitcoin or not yet on Amazon?
Not yet, no, but I was thinking of actually making some hard copy versions of the book. And then in that case, obviously I would bring them with me to conferences and sell them, Bitcoin. And
sign them. Yeah. Well, I love it, Rachel, and love having you on. Thanks for joining me on the Block Solid podcast. It was great. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or by visiting our website at solidblock.co/podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to rate, review, spread the word, and check Rachel's ebook. Bye.
Thank you, Al. Bye.